So my topic was Cain and Abel. Okay, so the origin of this story is in the Bible. So back in Genesis, we know Adam and Eve. So they had two kind of main children who were highlighted in the Bible. We have Cain, the elder of the two siblings. He was the one in charge of tending to kind of the crops and the land and managing that's like the harder labor, while Abel was in charge of the livestock and kind of had the more plush life compared to Cain. So Adam kind of instructed his two kids to make an offering to God to try to get favor through the next harvest season. And Abel offered his fattest livestock and kind of his best offerings possible in order to gain favor. Whereas Cain offered the meager plants that he made because he felt that because God gave him bad stuff, he should offer him bad stuff in return and hope that he gets good stuff in return. So God was not very happy with Cain because of this, but he liked Abel's offering. So he gave much favor towards Abel. And because of this, Cain became very jealous of him and decided the best course of action would be to lure his brother into a field and kill him. And after this happened, Cain realized that he didn't really mean to kill his brother, and he felt very guilty about what he did because it was his family that he hit in the head with a stone, basically. And so he kept pleading with God to kill him and end him of this kind of misery and guilt that he felt. But God said no and cursed him to wander the land forever, and no one was able to kill him because he was cursed with a mark, and he basically had to live with his guilt forever. So kind of the characteristics of this is, the major one is the sibling rivalry. So Cain disagreed with Abel, and kind of that sparked that whole murder. And again, the murder of a family-like person, so it doesn't have to be a direct brother or family, but it can be kind of close to a family. Also living with a guilty conscience. So after Cain killed Abel, he lived with guilt, and he didn't want to, but he was forced to. So he had to live with the consequences of his actions, and he kind of had to do this because he was not putting forth his best effort for God, and got punished for it. Also referencing one living more of a plush life and one having a harder working life. So Cain had the harder working life, but didn't quite understand why Abel got the more plush life, and that created jealousy as well. And also just name referencing to Cain and Abel, because that's a pretty big one. So these three allusions, Hamlet, so King Claudius murders his brother, the old king, because he was jealous of his position and he wanted to become king. So he decided to kill his brother and then marry his brother's wife because that's what he did. Better Call Saul. So Jimmy and Chuck McGill, they're brothers, and Chuck went through the whole long process of going to law school and enduring all that struggle, whereas Jimmy was kind of able to rise up and use his speaking ability and friendliness to gain position throughout. And Chuck became jealous of that, and throughout the seasons, specifically season 3, they have a lot of kind of beef between the two, and there's a lot of tension, and they try to bring each other down all the time, and they don't really see eye to eye on a lot of it. There's a poem called Written in Pencil on the Sealed Railway Car, which is about the Holocaust, and it directly references Cain and Abel, as the author kind of doesn't understand why Germany is doing this to the Jews, and views it kind of as a Cain and Abel situation, how they've been brothers this whole time, but all of a sudden they're deciding to turn on one another, and he just doesn't quite understand why that's happening when they're supposed to be like siblings. So the next one is The Lion King. So obviously we know Scar kills Mufasa towards kind of the beginning, and we know that Scar is jealous of Mufasa's position as king, and so Scar decides to kill Mufasa, much like Cain decided to kill Abel. Okay, so yeah, again we see the jealousy that Scar had that led him to kill his brother, much like Cain. So this next one is from South Park, an episode called Mass Over Bass Over Mouth. And so it's Lemon-Wings versus WikiLeaks. They're both, again, brother rats, and they're basically forced to fight by Cartman and Butters. But again, we see kind of the sibling clashing between the two and kind of how that plays out.
Look, I think Lemon-Wings killed him.
That's kind of the key parts. And we see how the brothers are killing each other, and he ripped his head off because he created a bad website, and the rats had to take each other down because Cartman felt like it. So yeah, again, we see how this alludes to Cain and Abel because it's the sibling rivalry. I know I kind of already said that, but yeah. And then the final one is The Simpsons. This is more of a direct reference because it's kind of a recreation of the scenes.
Boys, sacrifice my finest grains and livestock. Behold, I have found favor with the Lord. So shall I not find favor with thy belly.
So we see how this is a direct reference because we see Abel gave the good sacrifice to God through his large livestock and kind of his finest product, whereas Cain did not. He kind of sent forth the trash and decided that was good enough. We also see Adam kind of offering at the start to tell them that they should sacrifice to God. So we see that reference come up in the start, and then the devil laughing because it was a sin. It was the first murder. And yeah, thank you.
All right, thanks.